Was living across the street of this neighbor who would always be lurking through his window, and he would always keep his blind closed, but he would always just look purposely through his window to look into my house. And I found it very weird, but didn't think much of it until one day when I was closing my own blinds, and then I noticed that he purposely turned on one lamp sort of above his body, so people from the outside could see only under the light of that lamp. And he started it, or he was masturbating already. And I felt very violated, even though I was in my own home, my safe space. But I felt really weird in my own house. And later, he also started following me on the walks with my dog, even though he knew where I live exactly, so that was very weird. And when I also reached out to my landlord about this, he also didn't say that it's a problem or anything. And the guy had a wife and kids.
I was coming back home at night on my bike, and it was dark already, and usually nothing happens to me because I am always with my partner. But I think at that time he was on holiday somewhere, or for some reason he didn't go out with me. So it was like 1 a.m. and I was biking home, and then this scooter passed by next to me and he said something at me and then slapped my ass. I mean, it's not the first time that I have been physically or verbally been harassed by someone, by a man in the street or in a club or whatever. But the reason why this was an important moment for me is because I always felt like my bike was a safe place. I felt like no one could hurt me there. Like if I'm in the street walking, or if I'm in the tram or in the metro, I feel like men have access to harm me. But when I was in my bike, I always feel like I'm super safe. I also have a really nice, beautiful, and fast bike, so it always feels like protected place. But then in that moment, it felt like it's like if someone would have entered my house and my safety, and they would have jeopardized it and taken that away from me. So that's what was so impactful for me in that moment. And so I stopped my bike and started crying. Because although that boundary has already been crossed with me previously, this is like a different level, like a place where I didn't feel vulnerable at all, like I usually feel at other places.
Levenslang, another like inclusive underground techno queer friendly nightclub. I got roofied there, like drugs were put in my drink by a guy one time who just asked to have a drink from my glass. Like he just put something in it, like pretty much right in front of me. And we reported it to the club, and they said they couldn't do anything unless we had proof. And obviously I had thrown away the drink, so no proof.
I once told a man when I was on my way home to please stop making a young girl who was about 16, 17 years old, making her uncomfortable, and he turned around and started screaming in my face that I was a Japanese whore. So I got really uncomfortable, got on the train home, and he followed me, and I just walked up to the train conductor and told them what was happening, and the police came and took him off.
So I went home the next morning on my bike and still in my little club clothes. On the way home, a car pulled up next to me and they rolled down the window and they started yelling at me in Dutch. And I was like, I don't speak Dutch, I'm sorry. And they were just kind of like heckling me and driving alongside of me. I couldn't turn around. I was only going one direction on my bike. And they just stayed alongside me, like laughing at me and saying things at me that I couldn't understand for a while because I looked like a little messy, a little crazy coming home from the club. And then went home, put my stuff away, went out to go to the grocery store. On the way to the grocery store, an older guy stopped me and asked me for directions. I made sure he was all right getting to where he needed to go, and then he kissed me on the lips. I made sure he had his directions. I was like, okay, bye. And then he just grabbed my face and kissed me on the lips. And I just pushed him away and went in the other direction and was glad that he didn't follow me.
It was this day after school that I took the metro in Den Haag Central to go to Rotterdam. And it was during a strike, so it was actually pretty packed. And on the peak time, sometimes when you are coming out from school and you need to get in the metro, then you need to stand up because there are other people before you sitting down. So this day, I remember that I was wearing like this long coat. I was really tired after class, and I was just standing there in the middle of the crowd, and there was a man that was holding on to the same pole as I was, but my hand was like down, and I noticed that something was touching my hands, and I couldn't understand what it was. But I was a little bit scared to look up or move my hand. So indeed, I felt this thing again, and I realized that it was, the guy's dick. That he was leaning onto my hand. And then when I realized, I immediately took my hand off, and he realized that I noticed, and he immediately went down on the next stop. And I was quite blocked and I couldn't do much more. I was shocked, and I was a little bit scared also to make a scene or to scream or to ask for help, because people were just minding their business and I didn't want to bother them.
My friend and I were at the beach and we were laying there enjoying the sun. And then this guy comes and lays his towel out like not even a meter away from ours. And that was already a bit weird. The beach was pretty crowded, but like not crowded enough for this kind of thing to be normal. And at that point, so I was already a bit sketched out. I tried to ignore him as much as possible. We were like listening to music and reading. And then like 10 minutes later, he was only wearing boxer shorts, white boxer shorts. And at first I didn't notice. My friend noticed first that he was just masturbating right in front of us on the beach. We were kind of freaked out. Then we left. We didn't really know what to do, and we hated that we had to like change our plans because a man was being gross. And then afterwards we went back and we kicked sand in his face, showed him the middle finger. Yeah.